Yeah, we've been hearing that you are now the trainer for Chad Dawson. You replaced Emmanuel Stewart. How did that transpire?
I mean, basically, Chad, I actually got in touch with Chad about a whole separate matter. We have a mutual friend that was trying to get a hold of him, and over the summer, I called Chad to tell him this guy was trying to get a hold of him. And as luck would have it, what a coincidence it is! What a coincidence it is that you're calling me today. I was just talking to my brother this morning about you, and I said, "What about?" I think he was talking about some of the old days when we used to go to tournaments and stuff. And he said he was looking to make a change in his camp, and he wanted to kind of go back to the way he used to box, and he wanted me to be a part of it. And that was it.
That's good. That's good because you have worked with him in the past, and you're back with him again. And of course, you guys are facing a big challenge in Bernard Hopkins. What are some of the things you guys are working on and able to trying to beat a legend like Bernard Hopkins?
I mean, part of it is just looking and seeing what success other people had with him. And, because he's not unbeatable. Clearly, he's shown that he's lost fights. So we're kind of looking at what other people have done to be successful with him. And just watching the films and studying his moves and trying to see how they play against Chad's moves and techniques. And trying to come up with the antidote, pretty much.
Yeah, you yourself, you're 44 years old. So you're pretty much the same as Bernard Hopkins. He's 46, and from what I've been hearing, you yourself, although you're not fighting anymore, you're always training. So how do you do it? For an old man like yourself, how do you do it?
I mean, the truth, it's a funny thing. I'm 44, and my last fight was just over 10 years ago, and but I still box. Like a few weeks ago, I sparred with a professional light heavyweight who had a fight coming up at the time, and we sparred 15 rounds, and with no trouble whatsoever. I don't, I feel just as good as I did when I was 22. I don't know if there's something in the food and the water, but just today's athlete is different than it was, in other generations. There was a time when Muhammad Ali fought Larry Holmes, and he was considered ancient, and he was so slow, and he was just so far past his prime. It was very, very obvious how old he was in boxing terms. And the fact of the matter is, he was only 38. Now, guys, there's world champions that are 38 and 40 and 41. So it's just a different era. Guys are bigger, stronger. They're, I was telling someone the other day that they say, the scientists or researchers, whoever it is, they say that the first person to live to be 150 years old has already been born. The person's already on there somewhere, walking around, just waiting to be 150 years old one day. So it's just a different era. It's, genetics or whatever the case may be. But people are different now, and they're going to get stronger, and they're going to get faster, and they're going to just achieve greater things physically in the next 50 or 100 years. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, it sure is. We've been seeing it a lot, and like I said, with Bernard Hopkins recently becoming a champion once again to make history. It's unbelievable, but yeah, it's true. There's still guys out there that are, pushing harder, probably harder than the young cats out there. And
well, I can tell you this much. It's funny. When I was, and actually, I have a book that I'm writing about my career, and I talk about this, and I talk about how this happening kind of shaped me to be how I am now. And what it was when I was 17, there was a couple pros in Hartford that I used to box with all the time. They had fights coming up, and I was oftentimes their main sparring partner. And again, I was 17 years old, but I used to go to war with these guys, and everybody liked watching us box with each other. And so anyway, And then both of them at different times had hurt me to the body, and one of them cut my lip really bad. I still have a scar inside of my mouth from when he cut me inside the mouth. And so anyway, years later, after I was a pro, and I was an established pro. I had 20-something fights, and those two guys both were looking to make comebacks. And they came in the gym, and I boxed with both of them at different times, probably 6 months apart. And both of them, and they were only probably, realistically, they were probably like 35, 36 at the time. And just, it was so obvious that I just had my way with them. Like I could, like one of them, I actually tried not to hit because I just didn't want to hit him. He just seemed so old to me. And the other one, I hit him with a little body shot. And he grunted, like he was hurt. And he said, "Oh, good shot, good shot." And this guy, when he was younger, he was like Roberto Duran. Like he was a killer. Like he never would have said good shot. He would have hit you back harder. And in my mind, I was saying, I wanted to say to them, "Come on, let's bang it out like we used to. You're still you. You're physically here. You're the same person. Let's fight." But they just couldn't do it. And I made up my mind right then. I said, I'm never going to be like this. I said, if I ever get to be where a guy has to take it easy on me in the gym, then I won't box anymore. And so that I think mentally that kind of pushed me to be the way that I am now, where I box. And I have yet to have to take it easy on me. And when that day comes, that's when I know, like, if I can't box for real, then I don't want to box. So it keeps me young, I guess.
That's good, though. That's good. I agree with you, though. Like, if a fighter doesn't have it in them, whether it be mental or physically ready to take the challenge, I think it's always best to call it quits. Some fighters don't know when to quit, but that definitely makes sense for what you just said. And speaking of those two fighters that you sparred with, you mentioned them making comebacks, which leads me to ask you, will we ever see you return to the ring?
No. I would, and that's the thing. Like I'm having actually the time of my life. Like I always tell people, some of the best times I've had in the ring sparring have come recently. In the last 2 years, I've had great sparring sessions, and it's great for me because I don't have to fight. Like there's no stress, there's no tension, and I'm not all stressed out worrying about am I gonna win, am I gonna lose, am I gonna be in great shape, am I gonna the judge is gonna be on my side, etc., etc., etc. I can box anytime I want. I can box. I don't have to box. I can take a day off if I want. There's no pressure. And it's fun for me. And the funny thing is I keep track of all my sparring rounds, and I've done that since I was 16 years old. So every year I can tell you how many rounds I sparred in a particular year. And the most rounds I've ever done, in my almost 30 years of boxing, was 711 rounds in 1 year. That was in 2009. That's the highest. That's my highest round output was 2009 when I was like 42.
Wow, that sure is amazing. Sure is amazing. So I see from your experience and from what you've been through and all the hard training that you've gone through, what do you say to Chad Dawson in training camp? What are some of the things that you prepare him for, especially going up against a legend like Bernard Hopkins? We all know that the executioner is best known for his mind games going into a fight.
Right.
He breaks you down.
We've actually discussed that, the fact that he does do that, and I honestly think that a lot of it is for lack of a better word, it's nonsense in a way. Like the mind games is so transparent, and in other words, I kind of equate it to the stare down at the center of the ring. For me, I always found the stare down kind of silly. I'd like to think that a grown man and a world-class professional fighter would be scared by a mean look at the center of the ring before the fight. Just kind of amuses me, and I could see myself laughing if a guy tried to really stare me down, I would think it was funny. Just because, I don't know, I'm a different kind of person, I guess, when it comes to things like that. And so kind of the same thing with Chad. I'm just explaining to him this is, it's just we're fighting. It's a fight, and any of the words and any of the things he says before the fight, I can see how he's gotten some fighters' heads, and it's, and it's cost them. But I just feel that it's not necessary. It's something that like Calzaghe. I always use Calzaghe as a good example. Calzaghe, I took him to be the type of guy that would laugh at something like Bernard trying to get in his head and challenge him and all that kind of stuff. And I just think that's the approach you have to take. It's just words and they don't mean anything. The only thing that matters is what happens in the ring or what you do in the ring. Period. Like none of the pre-fight stuff and the press conference. Like sometimes it's like you go to the press conference and it's like you go there and you hear the guys say what great shape they're in. It's like, of course you're going to say you're in great shape.
Yes.
You're at the press conference. You're at the press conference with all the people talking about your fight. Of course, you're not going to say you're not in good shape. So, I just have Chad focus on what he has to do and not so worry so much about what Bernard has to do.
How about Bernard Hopkins being a dirty fighter? A lot of fight fans have criticized Hopkins for being a dirty fighter.
Sure, he definitely is. He gets away with, he does what he can get away with. Like quite a few times when he fought Tarver and other fighters, but especially with Tarver, he'd do a jab, a right hand, and the top of his head. Like literally a jab, right. It was like a 3-punch combination. Jab, right hand, top of his head. He propelled himself forward with the top of his head. And apparently the referees don't see this. It's like it's not even happening. And it's something we're preparing for, but we're also preparing to talk to the people before the fight and say, this is a professional world-class boxing match. This is not wrestling or MMA. I mean, there should be no top of the head. I don't care if it's Bernard Hopkins or a 4-round preliminary fight. It's illegal. Either it's illegal or it's not. To the best of my knowledge, it is.
Yes. Now, if you compare Dawson and Hopkins, obviously Hopkins has the more experience and he's fought much better competition throughout the years, having so much experience advantage over the young Chad Dawson. Of course, the age doesn't always matter in boxing. So what are some of the things that you see in Chad Dawson that you say this young kid, he can beat Hopkins, even though Hopkins has some advantages like that?
Right. I mean, he has advantages, but we certainly have advantages too. And I think Chad's youth and his style and his southpaw stance and his fluidity and this is his combination punching, his jab. He certainly has a lot going for him that Hopkins hasn't had to deal with. Like a lot of people might point to Tarver as the prototype, the comparison, but they're two different guys. I mean, the only thing they have the same is that they're tall southpaws. But Chad has a much different style than Tarver, a different punch output, a different slickness to him, a different jab, everything. So I don't think Hopkins is faced anybody like Chad, and I think he's trying to talk himself into a lot of trying to talk himself into the victory and to get people behind him and believe in him. But the reality is that when you get in the ring, that's when you either find out for real or not. There's no way to find out the truth about things than turn those lights on and put the gloves on in the middle of the ring.
Well, that's definitely true. It's like we always say in boxing, styles make fights.
Yeah.
Style make fights.